Ladies, gentlemen, and friends beyond the binary, welcome to the Thursday Discourse for today, September 9th, 2021. I'm your host, Tristan. Hello. This is another, off normal time because of scheduling and holidays and stuff like that. Show. Thursday Discourse. Yeah. My normal streaming schedule, though, is Mondays and Tuesdays, where I have the Monday Discourse, which this show usually is, which goes from noon until 2 Eastern on Mondays. And then on Tuesday nights from 7 to 9, I do Step Back Tonight, which is a show with just me. The Monday show is with Mia Mulder, who will be joining us shortly. Tuesday night show is just me. We go over the news. We A some cues. We fuck around. It's fun. It's good times. I go by he, him pronouns, and if you wish to support my work and help me keep the bills paid, you can go to patreon.com/stepbackhistory and sign up for as little as 84 cents a month with a yearly subscription, or $1 a month if you're going month to month. But people who sign up for that get access to early ad-free, sponsor-free videos, so enjoy that. And yeah, Twitch Prime is also a place where you can support my work. If you have Amazon Prime, you get one free Twitch Prime subscription every month that you can use on a creator of your choice. If you don't use it, you're basically letting Amazon keep your money for free, which, I don't recommend. Amazon's got enough money. If you don't choose my content, you should choose some content, someone you like. But do use it. If you are an Amazon Prime member, that is. Other ways you can support me on doing the stream, there's super chats on YouTube, there's bits, there's Twitch subscriptions. All those very welcome. Yeah. As for content, my latest video is on the post 9/11 moment, which came out a few weeks ago. My next video is a celebration of Step Back's 6th birthday. It's coming out not tomorrow. It's coming out for a week from tomorrow. For the 6th birthday. It's going to be great. I'm going to be filming it today, so that's going to be my afternoon project. If you wish to submit questions for future streams, I'm going to put in the chat a link to a Google form you can fill out to ask questions. Hang on to them for about a month, so if you don't get yours answered right away, just hang around for a month and you'll eventually get it answered. Most of the time, unless you spam me. Didn't get to Twitch. 1 second. There we go. Okay. What else we got? Let's see. Oh yeah, the last thing is if there's anybody here in the chat where it's their first time watching a Step Back stream, please make yourself known in the chat. This is a very fun community that has some kind people in it. So please make yourself known in the chat if this is your first time here, and everyone will make you feel welcome. It's great. Okay. So without further ado, let's call Mia then.
Hello?
Hello.
God, my camera's not working.
I don't know.
So,
have you decided to be a pair of spinning squares? Oh no, there you are.
Yeah, I'm very glad to take this step in my transition to become a pair of spinning squares.
I mean, ascending to a new dimension is the ultimate trans experience. I believe the Catholics called it transubstantiation.
Excellent joke. Excellent.
Primo. Okay. So I guess we should start. Oh, there's a stuffed fish on the floor. Okay. We should probably start with who you are and what are you doing here. A question I get asked often in people's houses.
Who are you and why are you here? What do you want with my family? I am Mia Mulder. I make YouTube videos about stuff, and I like to think that they're pretty good. I recently made a video about. I don't remember what my last video is about. It was 9 days ago, and I don't remember what it was about.
Beauty. It's about beauty.
Yes! Holy shit, you're right. Beauty. I made a video about beauty and the concept of beauty and how fucked up it is.
Yeah.
And I think it was a pretty good video.
I listened to it, or I watched the video in a really, like, shitty Tim Hortons. Like, a really sketchy Tim Hortons that I go to every morning.
That is how it was meant to be viewed like that, to preserve my artistic vision.
Yeah, it's a Mulder cut.
Exactly. The Mulder cut is meant to be viewed on, like, holding your phone fully upright like this, in a Tim Hortons.
A lot of people don't know that.
Night. A lot of people don't know that, but that's actually how you do it. If you watch it on a TV screen or like widescreen on your phone, you're doing it wrong. You're not getting the full experience.
This is true. It was a good video. I had a lot of fun with it.
Thank you. I also had a lot of fun with it. I worked way too hard on it.
It shows.
I need to start making. I need to start making stuff that is like shorter. Because every video I make now is like 50 minutes long for some reason. I can't. I long for the day I can make a 10-minute long video.
For some reason, my no matter what process I use for making scripts or content, my carcinization of video length seems to be 20 to 30 minutes.
And like, no matter what you do, you end up there, right?
Yeah. Even if I want to make something short, or something long, I just always end up crap.
Always end up, yeah, crap. It's the nature of it is a fact universally known that every YouTube video essayist wants to have a half-hour-long video.
Yeah. Oh boy. So other things that are going on in the you don't know what a Tim Horton is? I think he was a hockey player, but he started a coffee chain that is the most widespread but shittiest coffee chain in Canada. Where like it's a Brazilian-owned coffee mega corporation that's also merged with Burger King, but for some reason is integral to the concept of Canadian identity. So, yeah.
This is the wildest thing in the world.
Mm-hmm. They're just like literally, like, there's small towns with like 200 or 300 people in them that have like a Tim Hortons. Like they're everywhere. So we've had.
I feel like they have them in America too, right? I have a vague memory of seeing one at the airport.
They have them in Ohio specifically. There's only one state that has them, and it's Ohio.
It's just Ohio.
Yeah.
I love that you know that.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that for Ohio. What's Ohio doing?
Well, it's Canada. It's America's Canada, so it makes sense.
God bless.
Oh, they have them in Michigan apparently, and in I guess New York. So there's a few of them. I guess they're spreading a little bit.
Canadian imperialism strikes again.
Yeah, it's one on the list of the most amazing restaurants. Canada. I took in a little bit about how Canada has a whole bunch of fast food chains that are unique to us that are just so weird by retrospect. The number one, and I've worked at several of them. So not only do we have Tim Hortons, the coffee shop that I think we're internationally known for, which turns out to actually be shit. It's terrible. Don't go there. I only go there because it's dirt cheap. But we also have...
Basically free coffee.
Yep. We have a lot of restaurants that are named after a different place, but are not from that place or from here. So I'll list a few. There's New York Fries, which I used to work at. Not from New York. From Ontario or from Canada somewhere. That is in every mall. There's Boston Pizza, which is not a city that's known for its pizza. And it's not a Boston company. It's Canadian. I think it's from like Alberta or something.
All right.
The most fun one, you'll love this. One of the most large international or cross-country chains is Swiss Chalet. So its name, Swiss Chalet, and all of its icons is like, mountains and stuff like that. Sells Portuguese style chicken.
Of course, I was about to make a joke about the name, but there's nothing more fun than what you already said.
Swiss Chalet is known for selling rotisserie chicken, a thing that the Swiss are notoriously known for.
Famously, yeah.
That's served in the Portuguese style.
He's also going to be starring in the new Dune movie, Swiss Chalet. Looking forward to that interpretation.
It's true. And then and then also, because it needed to be special, there's a clone of Swiss Chalet that only exists in Quebec, which is called Saint Hubert. So Canada's got a weird eclectic mix of things, and also Harvey's, which is only known because every once in a while they do a charity event where they sell giant pickles on a stick.
I could get down with that though.
Yeah, the pickles are good. I worked at a few of these when I was a teenager. So yeah, it's fun. We got a lot of content, a lot of discourse. So that's not just. It's like there's a few things this week that are just like. When I did the stream on Tuesday, I was like, I can't really say too much of this except that's fucked up. America banned abortion, which sucks and I hate so much.
Yeah, that's probably like the biggest one, right? The complete clusterfuck. I think we mentioned it a bit last week too, but the fact that it's just like, yeah.
Do we have a Patin chain in Canada? Yeah, it's called Smokes. Sorry.
Smoke. Of course, they're called Smokes. Have you heard a thing about the Satanic Temple doing a countersue like they always do and never actually succeeded with?
This is a thing that the Satanic Temple does occasionally, which I love.
Yeah.
Which is that in America they have a lot of exemptions for religious-based stuff. So, but the thing is, that's almost always only used by Christians to impose basically like, the kind of Christian supremacism that exists in America. So what the Satanic Temple does is it uses their religious status and religious exemptions to try and get things that people want. Like, and in this case, they basically said that abortions need to be legal for anybody in Texas or for any Satanist in Texas, because abortion is part of the Satanic Temple's, religious,
practicing faiths, yeah.
The other thing too is there's been a rise in, I have only heard podcasts on this, so I have to do a little bit more digging to really get into its validity. But apparently there's also some medications that are pretty easy to get your hands on that are pretty safe and effective at aborting fetuses early on in a pregnancy, up to about 12 weeks. And there's sort of an underground movement of trying to train Texas uterus owners into learning how to use this stuff. And so
which is fucked up, right? Like, that's fucked up that we're doing that now. That we're sort of one of the major countries in the world, or like a major state within that country, has decided to go to the point where people need like underground medical railroads. And like, that's always been the case in America, right? Because America is fucked up with medicine anyway. But the fact that it's like under threat of like abortion bounty hunters.
Yeah.
If you told me like 4 years ago that like in 2021 there would be a global pandemic and also abortion bounty hunters, like I would laugh in your face, because that sounds like. I know people make fun of this statement because it is so stupid, but like it's something that like if it was put in a novel, it would be seen as like too heavy-handed.
Yeah.
Like, I can never see dystopias the same way again. And I think maybe that's why dystopias have fallen out a little bit in sort of media recently, because like, how do you make a dystopia which should like reflect exaggerated the anxieties and repression of modern day society when this shit is happening?
Mm-hmm. There's something pretty on par about how like culture is always sort of the opposite of whatever the mood is at any moment in history. Like, in the darkest times in history, it's when people are making the most, like, optimistic and saccharine media to try and get yourself through it. And we're always thinking about the apocalypse when things are good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Don't have shit.
It's pretty bad. Although, like, this interview I was listening to this morning was just... I was just so fascinated by this idea of people taking their reproductive rights into their own hands, and even the state can't stop them.
Yeah.
Because basically, what it is that there is it's pretty safe, like overwhelmingly safe, but that there is just there is a certain type of stomach ulcer medication that can cause people to spontaneously have miscarriages. And if you take it, it's not detectable by blood and urine tests. So,
oh my god! Of course, yeah, because of course that has to be the thing. Because like they're gonna fucking test people, bruh.
What me worry? What's it called? This stuff is. I mean,
it's so evil and so dark.
Yeah.
It's basically just like a more modern version of the wire hanger. Like, cause like it is safe-ish, right? And it's like, and it's like fairly accessible. But at the same time, it's not going to be as effective, and it's not going to be like it's not going to be taken by like medical professionals. It's going to be taken by people who are like doing some Googling on the internet and doing their best.
Yeah, I guess that's why they're trying to train people in how to use it properly and everything like that.
Yeah, and I think that's good. I think that's very good. And I see people, like, they've set up, I think, like, ride share things so people can, like, get out of state for abortions a lot easier. But Texas is, like, the size of fucking Russia, so, it's going to be a bit difficult as well.
Yeah, good that... Yeah. Texas is so big that you can fit 2 entire states of Texas into Texas. It's crazy.
You can fit the whole of America into Texas. No, but like it's just so dark, honestly.
Truly is.
And the fact that like the what's the guy called? The governor of Texas.
Dan Abbott.
Yeah, is he the guy I'm thinking of? Oh yeah, that complete asshat.
Greg Abbott.
He doesn't even Oh yeah, he doesn't even know what's in the law himself. Like he's been a massive proponent of it, and he doesn't even know what the fuck it is. I saw someone talking about how, because it bans all abortions after like 6 weeks of pregnancy, right? But 6 weeks of pregnancy is like hard to sort of define from when it is, and it usually has to do with like time since ovulation. It's a whole medical thing, right? But Greg Abbott seems to think that it's about like, well, when you find out when you're pregnant, then you get 6 weeks. So it's actually fine that there's no like exemptions for like rape victims in this law, because they're not, because this guy is a fucking asshole, evil, and going to hell. But he thinks that it's fine because it gives women 6 weeks to sort of fix it. Completely misunderstanding how everything fucking works. And I want to think, a part of me. Sorry, I'm ranting now because I'm fucking angry. I hope that's okay.
It's the point. That's what the show's
about. I want to think that like these people at least know what they're doing, but they're just evil about it. Like I can understand that, but the fact that they're so powerful, so evil, and just so stupid at the same time, that is what gets me. Just the stupidity of it all.
Yeah. It's wild. Yeah. So, turning around and disobeying the state is good now. Always has been.
Always has been. Yeah.
And probably Florida's going to follow suit, and probably a bunch of southern states are going to push something like this now that the precedent's been set. So that's going to be interesting to see where that goes. I'm not happy with this, but
I am hopeful for the Supreme Court though, because the Supreme Court is going to do a thing with Wade soon, I think.
Roe v.
Right?
Wade. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't pronounce that to save my life.
Well, this
Uh,
Texas bill sort of goes around Roe v. Wade because Roe v. Wade used like
mm,
a government can't spy on people to tell whether or not they've had an abortion as like a way like a privacy angle to do it. But then I learned that like this sort of basically by using the bounty hunters, it's a way of getting around that privacy aspect. So
which is the stupidest shit.
yeah,
It's the stupidest loophole too. Yeah, like the government can't sue you for getting an abortion, but people can.
yeah.
It's like,
So
hang on, what? The
yeah,
entire American legal system is like held together by like thin strips of wire that don't make sense. This loophole has been in here since like 1973.
yeah. And the thing is, it's because in America you have to like it's so hard to pass any actual laws that aren't just like 2,000-page handouts to corporations. They like to protect Roe v. Wade, to protect abortion rights. The Democrats had since the 70s to encode it into some sort of law, but instead they were relying on a Supreme Court decision, which is extremely vulnerable, as we're seeing. So, yeah, it's
I love living in historical eventful times.
yeah.
Like why the what like the fuck?
The other things that are big is New York sank into the sea like Atlantis.
Oh, who did it? I missed this.
New York had massive flooding in the last week,
Oh no.
where like basement apartments were literally submerged in water, and like, yeah, it was brutal.
What? When was this? Because I'm seeing a news story from 3 hours ago that's like apparently it's raining in New York right now, so that's not helping.
And then also the half of America that's not flooding is on fire. So because there's a big hurricane that hit the American South, and yeah, it's just like a whole thing.
Yeah, yeah. It seems like climate change is actually is hitting more now.
It hits different.
It it hits different. I feel like just even like 2 or 3 years ago, like there were big natural disasters, but I feel like they would at least be somewhat spread out, right?
Yeah, it's weird that we're having 1 in 400 year storms every like 2 or 3 months now.
Yeah, I feel like that's something that only started happening like 2 years ago, maybe,
Yeah,
if I'm wrong.
for the first time in my life, we had like air quality warnings for smoke, which is like a thing we never saw here on the eastern side of the continent today, or like not today, but a few months ago. And yeah, it's been unnaturally hot. Like we've been getting temperatures as high as like 40 degrees for a few weeks straight. And it was like, okay, yeah, this is not natural. But again,
Everything is falling apart. I'm so glad I follow Hank Green on Twitter because he's the only like small light of joy in my life anymore. Because he keeps posting about like how like new climate reports and it's like it's not actually as bad as it seems. We could be fine. Um, and I want to believe him.
I want to believe.
I want to believe.
Mulders love wanting to believe.
We used to want to believe in like aliens and cryptids and stuff. Now we're just like, I want to believe that humanity has a future beyond 2025. I want to believe.
Well, the next two stories do have us having some happiness, which is today we saw the premiere of the trailer for Matrix Resurrections,
Yes.
which looks like it's primarily going to be Neo and Trinity as the main characters, having hashtag couple goals throughout the Matrix.
Yeah, which I didn't expect. I sort of thought that they would be a sort of background role, but apparently they're like in the forefront, which that's interesting. I actually rewatched The Matrix last night to after I saw the trailer, No, wait, because the trailer came out today, right? Like there was like a teaser trailer or something that you sent me with like the pills.
Oh yeah, but the full
Uh,
trailer came out today.
yeah. So, so after I saw the teaser trailer, I rewatched the original one, and then I saw the trailer. Um, gonna be interesting.
Yeah.
It's gonna be very interesting. I am a little bit worried because it does seem like they want to repeat a lot of the story beats from the first one, but it might just be like a reimagining
Yeah, 'cause
thing.
it does seem like they've lost their memories or something, and it does seem like while we know you can't base a movie on the trailer, but it seems like it's talking about mental health stuff in more of a way because it features a lot of scenes with Neil Patrick Harris playing a psychiatrist and all sorts of stuff. So we'll see where that goes, but yeah.
Which I think is gonna be. I'm wondering if it's gonna be interesting, because the anxieties of the first Matrix were very much like over dependency on technology, like climate anxiety, but also sort of like cyber security. Like if we're ignoring the whole trans metaphor angle, if we're talking about like other anxieties into this, things can be about several things at once, folks. Um, um, and also just like the insecurities that come with having a sort of online uh, existence at all, compared to not having that in the past. So I'm wondering if this is going to be a bit more sort of direct, less dumbed down, because I remember people saying that the original Matrix was forced to sort of like take away a lot of its sort of philosophical aspects to make it more actiony.
Yeah, the
So
trailer.
maybe this one would just be like, oh, sorry.
Oh, it was like the trailer has him seeing a therapist and taking blue pills as some sort of psychopharmaceutical, and it's like, okay, I see what you're doing here.
I really hope that they're gonna. I feel like they're making this entire movie just to reclaim the red pill meme.
Do it. I would love to
Like-
find out that the red pill, like, actually, no, that would be too weird. It'd be like the red pill, the whole Matrix thing. That's the actual Matrix, and they have to be like the real life or something. I don't know. But yeah, it'll be wild.
It's gonna be wild. I'm looking forward to it like a lot. Is it gonna be good? I have no clue. It's gonna be the Matrix, which is gonna be fun, but I'm not sure it's gonna be good.
Yeah.
And like as I saw like rewatching the Matrix, it is a lot. It's very heavily in the sort of like we live in a society, a lot more than I remember it being.
Yeah, the Wachowskis, the whole thing is, if what you're getting isn't good, it's going to be at least interesting. So,
I love Cloud Atlas too. No, not Cloud Atlas. What's the other one? Jupiter Rising.
yeah.
That one was weird. I love it.
Or their Netflix show, Sense8.
I love weird shit.
Yeah.
We're gonna get so much weird shit.
And then there's also another really beautiful, wonderful thing, which is yesterday was the 55th anniversary of the first episode of Star Trek airing in 1966. And they had a big event where they invited a whole bunch of Star Trek actors, and they basically had panels on all of their shows and talked about all the new things coming out.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of region-locked trailers that I couldn't see. It's great. But
that might explain why I haven't seen anything either, actually.
yeah, so they announced a few things, so we know like kind of the next slate of Kurtzman Star Trek stuff. We know that in October we're getting the Nickelodeon show Prodigy, which apparently is going to it's like Star Trek, it's Star Wars Rebels meets Star Trek stuff.
Oh, okay.
So it's about a group of aliens in the Delta Quadrant that come across a experimental Starfleet ship that was abandoned, and they come onto it, and then they find out that the computer is is run by a holographic Captain Janeway, who's played by Kate Mulgrew, and they're going to do a bunch of adventures.
Finally, Voyager 2.
Voyager 2.
That's fun.
Yeah, it's gonna be it's a 3D animated kids show, so should be fun.
That's great. Yep. I do enjoy when they sort of take a step back from like the very like super serious vibe, because I feel like a lot of Star Trek has been very serious and very adult, whereas original Star Trek has always been kind of stupid, and I do like it when they go like for kids too. It's a fun sci-fi show.
Yep. Apparently Robert Beltran's going to be in it, so Chakotay is at least in it in some capacity.
That sounds good, actually.
Yeah, and it's Nickelodeon show for kids, so should be fun. The other show that's coming out in November, we're getting.
I swear to God, sorry, I just noticed it. Jason Matsukas is in Star Trek Prodigy. He's in fucking everything. I'm sorry.
Is that Derek?
Jason, yeah, that's Derek. He's in everything.
Derek?
I'm losing my mind. How is he in this too? I swear to God, I said like last week or something on this stream that he is in everything, that he's in every fucking show, and here he is in this one too. I'm haunted by the ghost of Jason Matsukas.
I guess voice acting, you can do things a lot faster. And
But he's also like in person shit too. Like what the fuck?
Must have a good agent. See, the thing is, he's in a lot of stuff, but in all the stuff he never has like a starring role. Like the only like in-person show I can think that he was in was when he was The Good Place, where he just played Derek, and then he's like in Big Mouth, that Netflix show, where it's like sex ed or whatever, and he's like kind of semi-major character, I guess.
Yeah. That's fair.
Yeah.
He doesn't really have much of a character. Yeah. He's in Doolittle too. That or crime movie. Okay, I need to disconnect. I can't be obsessed with this man.
November we're getting Discovery season 4, which does does have Saru coming back in some capacity because he's still billed as a main cast.
That's good. I like Saru.
Mm-hmm. And then in February, they have Strange New Worlds coming out. And they included a lot of new information out of Strange New Worlds. Strange New Worlds is the show where it's the Enterprise basically after the Discovery Season 2 events.
Yeah, so it's like the very narrow period of time after Discovery, but before the original Star Trek.
Yeah, and it's billed as being more upbeat and episodic and more like of a classic show.
They have to do that because they also need. I feel like they're probably realizing too that like people are going to rewatch the original one if they're doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Right, because they're gonna have like Spock is gonna be there, Pike is gonna be there.
Apparently, it's gonna feature a young Uhura and a Nurse Chapel, and then I saw this. I'm wondering what your thoughts are on this. I'm gonna send it to you as a message.
Oh shit!
That this is one of the characters.
Uh-huh. That last name sounds very familiar.
That was Khan's name. So apparently there's a character named La'an Noonien Singh who is Khan's name.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah. So
is that Khan? It is. Holy shit.
So I'm going to install my, what's it called? I'm going to install NordVPN again, and I'm going to watch these trailers.
But isn't the inventor of Data Noonien Soong?
Yeah, Dr. Soong, not Noonien Soong, just Dr. Soong.
Really?
It gets confusing because then they had Brent Spiner on that two-parter of Enterprise where he was cloning people. So it all gets very, like, weird.
No, his name is Dr. Noonien Soong, and then we have Dr. Noonien Singh for Khan. Why would you do that? Why would you name them so similarly?
I don't know. There might be apparently I don't know this for sure. I'm just seeing this in the chat that there's an Andorian bridge person.
Well, that's good. I like that.
So that sounds fun.
A bit more diversity in the classical species.
Yep, and also there was also hints that what's his face is going to be given a physical body in the new season. That like the plot line with Stamets and Hugh and them is going to be about trying to make a physical body for the. I'm trying to remember what his name was. The Trill character that's dead.
Yeah, I don't remember his name. I sort of stopped watching around that plot point, so I don't remember very well, unfortunately.
But it's like a whole found family, like, kind of storyline thing. So it'll be because Discovery has just laid it out that it is the gayest Star Trek.
Proudly taking that, yeah.
So that was all the things that got announced. Apparently, there was also like a whole orchestra playing all the theme songs. Apparently there was a very heartwarming speech by Sirach Lofton talking about how Deep Space Nine defined his like concept of fatherhood and everything.
Oh, that's fine.
Sirach Lofton, by the way, for anyone who knows, is the person who played Jake Sisko in the show.
Then it's even more fucking wholesome, isn't it?
Yeah. And also, yes, apparently Picard Season 2 got some details, too, about how it's going to involve Q and doing a sort of, like, alternate 21st century where they get sent back to the 21st century where there's been, like, an authoritarian takeover of the Earth and Picard has to stop it or something, so...
I noticed this. I have, like, a Google alert set up for Q. Everything Q related, I noticed.
You must get some very off shots on that one.
Listen, I trawl through every single thing containing Q in case it contains him. No, I lost my mind over this because I fucking love Q.
Silver
Fuck
Fox,
yeah,
John Delancey.
I'm losing my shit. I think, if I don't misremember entirely, that I had an opportunity to get his autograph once at like a sci-fi convention, and I didn't get it, and I've been bummy ever since. Teenage me needs this.
And now he's old, so I don't know how they're gonna write that one off, but
you know how they're gonna write it off. They're just gonna write it off as Q bullshit.
Q trolling Picard for how old he is.
Yeah, or some bullshit. Like it's just gonna be Q. That's why I love Q so much, because there's a big part, and there's a big part of the Star Trek fandom that hates Q, and they hate him for the reason why I love him, because there's a big contingent of like science fiction fans that are very obsessed with technobabble, no story, only lore, that type of fan.
Yep.
And there's nothing necessarily wrong with it, like per se. But it can sort of like take away from a lot of the fun of like fun wacky space adventures, which is like what a lot of Star Trek is supposed to be. Like it's supposed to be like a plot device to tell a nice story, rather than like a collection of gizmos that just do science fiction stuff. And what I like about Q is that while most of the show sort of like has technobabble around it, Q exists just to show people that like, no. Sometimes the characters are just going to be dressed up as Napoleonic warriors. That's just how it's going to look now. They're going to use laser muskets, and they're going to fight pig people. Deal with it.
This is the Robin Hood episode now. You just have to...
We are going to do a Robin Hood. We don't want to do a holodeck one, but we want to do Robin Hood. So here's a magic space alien.
Yeah, we recently, Kelly and I are rewatching Deep Space Nine. This is the third time I've watched it, and it's the second time we've watched it in less than a year. We've passed the 1Q episode of DS9 where Sisko punches Q in the face, which
he doesn't show up again, right?
Well, somebody mentioned that like. What's interesting is that he actually did it, which is like, that's like some, what's it called? Emissary energy, you know? He was actually able to punch Q. Is this a Q drop? Yes.
He's the only one who can do that.
Yeah.
In the whole of the galaxy, he's the one who can actually punch Q, and he does. And Q is just like, oh, fuck that.
Picard never punched me. It was great.
It's great.
Okay. So it seems like we're just gonna have Star Trek every single week until sometime in the spring of next year. So we're set.
Fuck yes.
Or probably even
Or
later, yeah, because February is when Strange New Worlds starts, which makes it probably around the time Discovery ends. So it's just going to be like a whole cycle. And then we
Yeah.
might be ready. And then when that ends, it might be summertime. We might be ready for a new season of Lower Decks. Oh man, okay. Just the all year long.
I'm really. There's one. There are two things that are there. There is one thing that's bad with this and one thing that's good. One of the good thing is that we get Star Trek content, and I like it. But the other thing that's like bad about it is that like it's kind of weird how a lot of these like big franchises now make like 18 different shows and like huge package deals, and that's just what we have now. The fact that like Marvel comes out with a new show every like day, or I just want like a year with no new content. Or like new content that's not like a new like just built on top of the same franchise. Like something I just want 1 year with like a bit of original stuff.
If I recall, that was called 2020, where nothing, the year where nothing came out.
Yeah, and in terms of media, I like that.
Yeah, well, so we'll see. We'll see where it goes. It's gonna be. I'm down. They said, yeah, they've got 5 shows and thing. I'm liking the Alex Kurtzman era of this series. It's got some good energy. I like what they're doing, so keep it up. I even liked Picard. I'm that much of a simp.
I didn't hate Picard. Picard won me back with the French accent.
Picard was a show that had you can tell struggled really hard with having a very low budget. Like they gave it like no money, and they were very ambitious for a very low budget. That's why Riker showed up with 6,000 of the same spaceship, and that what's it called? All of the stuff that was filmed at Starfleet HQ was just the Anaheim Convention Center, where they host VidCon every year. So you could just like, I remember all these locations.
I've been right there.
Yeah, precisely. Okay, let's see. We do occasionally answer questions, and this is like a new record for us. 42 minutes.
That's impressive. Talking Star Trek.
Yeah.
We're sorry. Like obviously, like our viewpoints on Star Trek. You don't have to share them. You can. We're just like two nerds. Everyone can view the show however they want, and also we just like talking about fucking Star Trek. So, but let's talk about history.
Yeah. Okay. So first question we got here is, we already answered this one, which is if you were to organize 4 general history courses for college, what would be in them? But we already answered that one a few streams ago.
Oh, did we? Oh, I don't. Yeah.
If a local anarchist collective developed in your country and requested that you choose an animal to represent it, what would you pick? Well,
Badger.
Badger?
What did you pick?
Well, since this question was asked, it has sort of already been answered, which is that the capybara has now become the unofficial mascot of leftist movements across the world. So,
yes, this is true. Well, in Brazil specifically, right? If I remember correctly.
Yeah, it started in Brazil because there was a rich development that got taken over by capybaras. Which, by the way, for anyone who doesn't know, capybaras are basically dog-sized guinea pigs. They took over the entire development, and now like the development's like losing all of its like value because they bulldozed over these things' natural habitat in order to build this housing development, and now they're just showing up and taking over. So it's wonderful.
Love it. Love to see it. It may be international symbol of leftism around the world, but not in Sweden, because I think in Sweden crocodiles are still the symbol of like the anarchist left. Because like a few years ago during because Nazis like having parades here for some reason, they love doing it, and they have their fucking like riot shields that they bring out, and they provoke a lot of violence, right? And cops usually like protect them around and are usually a little bit harsher against like counter protesters than anything else. But so what like anarchists like counter protesters do to sort of counter it is they can't bring their own shields because then they can be arrested for like carrying a weapon and provoking violence, yada yada yada. But what they can do is they can bring like inflatable swimming toys in the shape of big crocodiles that are the size of like a person that you can carry because they have like two like nice handles, like a shield,
Oh,
and
nice.
they're big, like rubbery inflatable. And if you have a bunch of these, you have like a riot shield. That's soft, so cops can't get you for anything. And during this protest, the cops they started taking some of these things, and they some of them got deflated, and there were some pictures online about like a deflated crocodile like laying behind the police lines, and everyone on Swedish Twitter just lost their shit over like, "Long live Comrade Croco. His
Nice.
sacrifice will not be forgotten." And you can still see like on lampposts and shit, like people made art about crocodiles eating frogs because Pepe the Frog being like a symbol for like the alt-right in some cases. So that's a fun story about that here.
Yeah, that reminds me of Negro Matapacos, the protest dog in Chile, who they like built statues of and like all that stuff, where he was just this like this like black dog that has like a red bandana and attacked police officers, and like people started like spray painting him on stuff and making statues of him and everything.
I love it.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, I was gonna say a thing and then I completely blanked.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's good. I do like the idea of crocodile, the crocodile thing. That's solid. I wish Twitter memes defined. Well, that's a wrong thing. No, never mind. I don't.
The monkey paw curls up now.
Yeah. Thing is, like, Twitter is the worst. But every time I learn about other social media platforms, I realize that Twitter is the least worst.
Yeah.
Like, Facebook
the
is...
reason we come to... Yeah.
Yeah, Facebook is turning, like, grandparents into fascists. TikTok is making everybody a manifesting anti-vaxxer. And Instagram actively destroys your mental health. Like, Instagram, because of gender reveal alone, Instagram has killed more people than any other social media platform.
Probably, yeah. Tumblr is the only good one now, because everyone left, so now it's good because no one's there.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I did get a super chat. That's what I was trying to think of. Yes, Matt Lipton gave me a $5 super chat. Thank you. Am I streaming the English Leaders debate tonight? No, for two reasons. One, I don't want to get kicked off Twitch again like I was last time I streamed the debate, and two, leaders debates don't move the needle at all in Canadian politics, and three, I don't know, I wouldn't have I feel like I never have anything to say to debates on, like, watching leaders debates on Twitch. It'd be weird. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Basically, we're having an election debate tonight.
Yeah.
For the election that is in 11 days. So that's fun. I'm going to do something much more fun and interesting than that, which is that I'm going out canvassing tomorrow night. So I'm going to go knock on people's doors and tell them to vote. So that's fun.
That was fun. The only election we have here is the freaking church elections, and no one gives a shit.
Oh, boy. Okay. Next question we got here is, what channels would you recommend for a high school/college history class?
Crash Course History.
Yeah. I don't just would I recommend. I have TA'd American history, and I have used Crash Course U.S. History all the time. Especially good because I think Crash Course U.S. History actually, like, organized itself using the same textbook as the one that was assigned for U.S. history in university. So,
Same with world history, I think. At least for the books that I use. Like, they do seem to organize themselves like really, like along like a basic academic line, which is very nice.
yeah. I could tell because not only do they follow the chapters of the book, but also they often quote Eric Foner, who was the author of the textbook. So it's like, okay, yeah, I get what you're doing.
All right. No, but that it's a great channel. It does great stuff. John and Hank Green, give me a show on Crash Course. Let me do the history of sex.
Crash Course? You know that they'll end up giving what's her face that history of sex crash course. They already got a sex person in their ecosystem.
Which
I'm trying to remember what her name was. I met her once. I think the channel's called Sexplanations.
Oh, I don't know. She's kind of out that sphere. I don't really know what her deal is though anymore. But I feel like maybe she is far enough out of the mainstream spotlight for me to like swoop in. Maybe.
Okay.
If I'm lucky, because I like Hank a lot. I think Hank is a great YouTube guy, but he also is smart enough to know when not to have a host because the host is a bit too controversial. Let's say it like that.
I wasn't talking about Lacey Green. No, I was talking. I'm trying to remember what her name is.
No.
No, not.
Oh, yes, of course. Oh my God, you're right. Yes. Yes. Oh my God, I'm such a dumbass.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what her name is. Is the thing.
Lindsay Doe.
Yeah. Maybe. Yeah, Lindsay Doe. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Lindsay Doe would definitely do that, and she would do great.
Oh yeah. Lacey Green would be like, oof, that'd be rough.
Yeah, that would be.
That would be a decision.
No, but Dr. Lindsay Doe would be great.
And she is firmly in the greenosphere.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe it's one of those things that doesn't really happen a lot due to YouTube just not liking sex stuff.
Yeah, you have
maybe Crash Course wouldn't do that.
Her stuff gets demonetized constantly. Just so anybody knows in the chat, if you ever are curious about who's associated with what, the two big like networks of channels are like Standard and Complexly, and PBS Digital Studios, PBS DS. Those are like the three names in the space.
Oh, in the educational YouTube space, yeah.
Yeah, and one is run by the Kurzgesagt and CGP Grey, and then the other one is run Complexly is the Greens, and then PBS DS is PBS.
Yeah, it's actually not run by CGP Grey and Kurzgesagt anymore.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's become its own thing. It recently got an investment from Curiosity Stream, so that's fun.
Yeah,
so it's a lot of documentary stuff going in there.
The trick is if they have a show on Nebula, they are part of the complex, or they part of the Standard people.
Yes,
they're part of the Standard ecosystem.
Yeah, that contains all of the video essayists you know and love, except most of them.
Yeah, it has every single good one. I know because they haven't added me in yet.
Yeah, I was about to say except you.
Nah. I have with connections and stuff like that, and the people I've met in these things, I have a higher chance of I know more people at Complexly than I do at Standard. I think. At least people who are in admin.
Yeah, and I think that's what's it called? I'm with Nebula, and I would never speak bad of my own accompaniment.
Yeah.
But they are both fine YouTube associations.
Mm-hmm. I might be just a little bit spicy for Complexly is the only thing, but that's fine. I'm what's it called? I'm indie right now, and I'm doing fine. So
yeah.
All right. Next question we got here is, what's your opinion on the California recall vote? So this is fun. So California is having a recall election. I don't remember when it is. I can't tell you. But I imagine it's soon-ish. The idea is they have this ballot where they're basically saying, do you want to recall Governor Gavin Newsom, who is the current governor of California? To kind of give you an idea where he is politically, he is a Democrat, but he's a shitty liberal Democrat, and let a lot of people die during COVID. Kind of like his mirror on the East Coast. He just wasn't a creeper like Andrew Cuomo. So, so he's being recalled, or they're having a recall election, and a recall election is where if enough people are pissed off, they vote to basically fire him and then elect somebody else. And they're doing both like they're having two questions on the ballot. The first one being, do you want to recall this person? And the second one is, if he gets recalled, who do you want to replace him with? And currently the leader of this is this right-wing MAGA chud guy who is probably doing I think he's doing the best in the polls. Like, everybody who's opposing Gavin Newsom in this list are almost all Republicans, and I think there's a couple people from the Green Party, but they're polling really low. So the essential idea is that if Gavin Newsom gets recalled, he's going to be replaced with a Republican.
Yeah.
And that's bad enough to have the governor of California be another shitty right-wing Republican. But it gets worse because there's a lot of rumors that Dianne Feinstein, who's approximately 6,000 years old, is showing severe signs of senility and mental and cognitive decline, to the point where there's rumors that she's retiring soon, even though she literally just got reelected. She ran for reelection in 2020 despite having not remembering things that her aides told her 5 minutes ago and stuff like that. So that's great. That shows America's a healthy country. So the idea is, though, and this is a super crazy thing, if a politician in America resigns, like a senator, if a senator resigns and does, they don't just do they don't just do a quick election. They don't do that in America because everything is on set schedules. So instead of doing a sort of quick election to try and figure out who the new senator is going to be, the governor just appoints somebody to that role until the end of their term. And so Dianne Feinstein, who is a shitty super right-wing Democrat, could be replaced with whatever this new guy wants to put in place, which could be a super right-wing Republican. And because the Democrats are 50-50 in the Senate, I imagine the Democrats are extremely excited about the idea that they'll finally have a legitimate excuse to not pass all of the things that their donors don't want.
I love American democracy.
I love the Republic.
Fuck America. This keeps happening.
Yeah. The guy's name is Larry Elder, and he came up as a radio host who was helped in the industry by a guy by the name that we are all familiar on YouTube of another radio personality by the name of one Dennis Prager.
Of course.
So, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Everything is awful.
Yeah, he could get recalled with 49% of the 49% of the vote. He could be recalled and then replaced by somebody who only got 18% of the vote from the second question.
Sounds healthy.
Yep. Other fun things that were a little bit of note about this is that one person who was running in this recall election toured with an actual bear. Brought a bear to his campaign rallies.
Based.
And
maybe
also,
not the person, but the bear.
Yeah. And then also Caitlyn Jenner was making a stab at it.
Yeah, I saw that too. And everyone... I like how everyone across the political divide, except for, I think, only Blair White, everyone just decided to be no. Fuck off. No.
Yeah.
In one of her opening things, she talked about how bad California is because her what was her private plane pilots had to see homeless people on the way to the hangar or something like that. It's just girl, you do realize what you sound like when you say this.
Yeah.
Girl, the optics.
Please stop.
Please.
Someone just asked, why is Canada so far left and USA so far right? Well, there's been an intentional...
Is Canada far left?
No. If we were in Europe, we would be I would say we'd be one of the most right-wing countries, but I forgot that the UK and Poland exist. So... But
you forgot.
We would be considered significantly to the right of pretty much every other European country. I mean, there is a couple things. So Canada does have a few of like the basic social democratic programs that every country on earth got after World War II, except for the US. So, yeah, we do have a public healthcare system because, most countries do. I think the main thing is that we have a parliamentary democracy, so there's more than two political parties, and a lot of our like public healthcare and stuff like that came about because of like large socialist movements that rose in like the prairies and stuff. America had a particularly violent reaction to their labor movement, so America's labor movement's always been very weak compared to other labor movements, and they were violently repressed and put down. And then in the 20th century, the Cold War sort of openly repressed communists and socialists from doing anything. So even social democrats were considered too far to the left in Canadian or American politics. So, yeah.
Yeah.
But like on a grand scale, we're still a very right-wing country. We're ruled almost one party state-wise by the Liberal Party, which is in every other country considered a right-wing ideology. But in Canadian politics specifically, we're duped into thinking that that is a left-wing ideology. So, I hope that answers things.
I think so. God, sorry for my yawning and stuff. Like I've been moving apartments and stuff. This might be the last stream you see by the end here because I'm moving. It's tired.
Man.
You know how it is.
Yeah. Cribs, Mia Mulder edition. Did you said you were not going to have space to film in the new place. Did you solve that problem?
Not yet. We'll see how that goes. I might actually, the way I might do things is I might rent a hotel room and just shoot in there. Which is not going to look suspicious at all, either when I come over lugging a bunch of camera equipment into a semi-fancy hotel room.
Yeah.
It's gonna... Yeah. I'm gonna have to talk to like a hotel manager being like, hey, I'm a YouTuber. Studio spaces are $800 for 2 hours. I just need a wall. And with the hotel, I get breakfast. So...
You get breakfast. That is true. I forgot about that. Yeah, the catering's already taken care of.
Like, literally, that's the big part of the attractions.
You get wall and muffin.
I get a nice space that like looks fancy where I can shoot my videos. I can sleep in it afterwards, so I don't have to go home from the studio because I like to record late at night, and if I go to a studio space, I have to get home by like 6 p.m. or some shit like that. And I got a continental breakfast in the morning. And it's like a tenth of the cost of a studio space. Win, 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 win.
God, that's
I'm gonna get banned from like every fucking hotel for screaming about capitalism.
Yeah.
Sorry, this wasn't about that, but that's why I'm jawing a little bit.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's solid. Okay. Let's see what we got next on the collection. Oh, it's Christos Nikolaou time. Let's do this.
Oh yeah, hell yeah.
In your cryptocurrency video, you mentioned how marketization drives optimization of products towards profit. However, can there be optimization without some form of signal from the consumers, non-market based with the socialist market? While I agree on the optimization part in terms of shallow changes, same old products being re-released or environmentally damaging stuff, would people demand from their products things other than, example, ease of access for digital stuff or taste, e.g. food? And how would that work if said socialist economy had degrowth as part of its structure? So that went a bunch of places, and it didn't pause for many periods, so it was like a really long sentence.
Yeah.
And
could you copy paste that for me so I can
incredibly unbroken sentence, moving from topic to topic, so no one had the chance to interrupt is really quite hypnotic.
The fact that I knew where you were going, and I wish I knew the lyrics to sing along. God damn it! I'm so happy to be your friend.
So basically the thing I talked about in this video was that when something becomes a commodity, like, the person who makes, like, let's I don't know, let's go with McDonald's since everyone knows that place. Their point under a capitalist economy, their point is not to make food. Their point is to make money, which means that their choices are about increasing profitability rather than increasing value for their customer. So, because if they could, so that means that they try to manufacture products in a way, like, theoretically, this is the market incentive for them to make better products. But what it does turn out is it more incentivizes them to try and push for a monopoly and to exploit holes in our biology in order to subvert our rational thinking, i.e. making addictive ingredients, trying to hook children while they're young to build a sort of like intergenerational cult-like following. A whole bunch of stuff. And of course, because they're optimizing for, money, they also don't care too much about externalities. Like, it's easier to make disposable stuff than reusable stuff because that's an externality. You just throw it into the what's it called, the waste bin, rather than having to go through the process of washing and cleaning things. All of these decisions are about maximizing profitability, not about maximizing, how good the experience is for the people using it. So the idea is, like, how would socialist economies be responsive to the people who want stuff without having the profit motive basically as its driving aspect?
I'm hella stupid.
This is basically commodity fetishism.
Yeah.
But
signal from the consumers.
There's a lot of time, so a lot of different ways you could do things, which is like, one, there's definitely software metrics you can use to try and predict what kinds of different products or what kind of like aspects people need. Amazon already has stuff like this. They have predictive algorithms to find out what people are going to want ahead of it actually happening. And that kind of technology could be used to advance the work that's being done here. Because a lot of people who followed my series that I did for a little bit on the People's Republic of Walmart is that a lot of these technologies are very useful for socialist economies. We just need to steal them and adopt them.
Like that one, like, what was it? Peruvian? Chilean?
Cybersyn.
Yeah.
It's looking more likely that that's going to be my video for November.
Oh shit, look at that.
Yeah, so there are ways that we can be responsive and follow this stuff. Yeah, Cybersyn was crazy. Their plan was to have a network that was connected to every single part of the economy, like all the stores, all the factories, and that would all be relaying real-time information about their outputs and inputs and like everything like that, so they can fully manage every single part of it and optimize it. It could have been nuts.
Yeah. And apparently, like, every test and stuff seemed to have been done well.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make money for like 5 rich people at the very top, so it had to be destroyed.
Well, it ended because of a right-wing coup of the country, so yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the next thing is, like, how do you handle what consumers want in an age of degrowth? And we would argue that you could do a lot of degrowth and still handle most people's consumer demands if you got rid of ones that were artificially installed by marketing and advertising. And two, you could, because you're not merely optimizing for one thing, which is profit, you could optimize for trying to address people's needs as much and deal with, ramping down production. Like, under a capitalist economy, we do something like 40% overproduction, which means that for every 10 goods we make, four of them are unnecessary and never get used.
Yeah.
Just to like really take home like just how much we're wasting resources, because capitalism's about infinite growth, but the thing is, we don't have infinite capacity for consumption. And it turns out when you underpay people, they don't have money to buy things that you're trying to sell. So you could cut production by like 40% and still not have us have any lowering of our standard of living.
Yeah, this is just a logistical problem, basically. I'm also thinking in terms of like getting rid of like planned obsolescence, things like that.
Yeah,
like, that would just increase the lifespan of many goods, meaning that you don't need to produce as much of the good for the good to still be useful.
It's true. There are so many things that, like if you, what's it called? If your phone, you could just replace parts of them when they broke instead of having to buy a new phone every time. That would be, that would save us a lot. And also, you know, maybe they won't release a new phone every year with basically the same stats.
The same stats. I saw something about the European Union. Yeah, the European Union might, I think this is like something that's currently being discussed, require like phone operators to provide spare parts and updates for up to 7 years for new phones that are released in Europe, which would be gigantic, because a phone now lasts like what, 2 years, 3 or 4 if you're like taking care of it very well. So if like they start demanding, being like, hey, you need to be able to repair your phone, you need to have like updates to work with this phone, not like future phones that have like better parts and shit, then the lifespan of like phones can increase dramatically.
Yeah, I love how the European Union is the biggest fucking troll to these like American corporations, because like every time they want to be shitty, the European Union does it. Like the European Union looks like it's, if anything is going to kill loot boxes, it's going to be them. Where it's like, if you want to sell shit to Europeans, you can't do it. And because they don't want to like shut it down for one product, they basically like get rid of it everywhere. And then like the European Union recently made it so that you can't sell just regular cars anymore. They all have to be hybrids at the very least. And like what was the other one? And this whole thing, and also the right to be forgotten with Google and stuff like that. Like, I know like the European Union sucks, but man, when they come through, they come through.
Well, yeah.
Turns out that like if you want to gatekeeping the right to sell things to 100 million of some of the most wealthy people in the world, probably like the on average richest population. Like,
yeah.
Or the people with the most disposable income in the world.
Yeah.
That, you then have to bend to their will. Thanks, Belgium.
Fucking Belgium. If Belgium ends up saving the planet, is it really worth living on it anymore?
Yeah, because the European Union is a scam made by Belgium to sell more waffles.
Basically, yeah, and to privatize rail.
Yep.
There's 1-2 things. More waffles and private rail. And that's basically it. Mm-hmm. But but you're sort of right in the sense of like the European Union does have a lot of like red tape that people complain a lot about, but I think also that it might be this red tape that saves us all.
So you said here, sorry, I meant you're not allowed to manufacture new hybrids. Yes. You can't manufacture regular cars, which I'm very curious about what like all of those like fancy pants Italian car companies are going to do. Like Bugatti or Ferrari or...
I've seen them sort of like start doing sort of like... They wanted to sort of like one-up Tesla. Because Tesla has sort of marketed itself as a sort of luxury electric car company, right? And they want to make Teslas seem like shit. Like everyone has a Tesla, according to them. Like everyone should have a Tesla, but only the fine people can have like an electric, fucking Bugatti or whatever.
It just blows me away because like it's weird when you see what Italian tanks looked like during World War II. That the next step would be that the Italians would be like one of the best car manufacturers in the world, but just for fancy cars.
Well, to be fair, like you can tell by looking at their tanks that they didn't really want to make tanks.
What is this wagon with a turret on it?
If you're looking at Soviet tank manufacturers and then Soviet cars after the Second World War, you can see that they really liked making tanks. They are good tanks and very tanky cars.
Yeah, tanky. The T-38, the T-38, but it's just for getting your kids to soccer practice.
Exactly, that's basically what a lot.
I would love the idea of like the Soviet Union just like miniaturized. So instead of cars, they just had mini tanks. They just drove around as their like thing.
Oh my god, fuck yes. Yeah, and you know what the Italians wanted to make sports cars, but with a turret.
Yeah, so you can drive around and whistle at women. That is the sole drive of the Italian economy. So you have to have the fanciest car to whistle at women from.
Exactly. That's why the turret is there, to amplify the whistling.
Yeah, it's just like a megaphone.
Every week we make fun of Italians.
Yeah, they're just driving this tank, driving down the street, and the turret just turns. It's just like, "Hey, baby, you're so cute. You want to go get a macchiato?
Yeah.
You're so cute. I put you in my pocket. You pretty. I put you in my pocket."
We're gonna get canceled for this one day.
Yeah, that's true.
What are they gonna do? Throw spaghetti at us?
I mean, they were pretty good at it. They went through a lot of years of just flat out assassinating people. So I don't know.
I mean, that's fair.
The
only reason why we make fun of Italians is because we know that it's a nice country. I want to live in fucking olive trees. No, can I do that? No, I have to live in fucking pine trees in negative 30 degrees Celsius.
You don't get
Volvo.
No olive oil for you. Instead of olive oil and delicious fresh food from the Mediterranean, you have to eat the rotten fish from a can.
Yeah, I get pine tar and rotten fish.
You get whatever lutefisk is. You get
I
Christmas
get fish slime.
What is that? Christmas this juice you only drink at Christmas time. You get that. You get Christmas soda.
Yeah, I get Christmas soda.
By the way, I wanted to address this publicly so I can get the answer. What is the deal with Danish people just covering people in cinnamon as part of like some random thing for trolling your friends?
I think it's just like a Danish tradition. I have no clue. I found out about it when you sent me the TikTok. I've never heard of this before in my entire life. But it is another sign of why Denmark needs to be brought to heel.
Denmark, you're out of control.
Sweden needs to develop nuclear weapons so that with plutonium we can bring the Dane to heel.
Makes sense.
Dansk jävlar.
I'm trying to remember what is that like. There is some sort of like soda or juice or something that isn't Scandinavians only drink at Christmas time.
Yeah, it's called julmust. It's a type of soft drink that's for Christmas and for Easter, where they just put a new label on the same soda and called it Eastermust, Le Påskmust. And in winter we also have glögg, which I think it's a Scandinavian version of mulled wine, but it's a bit different. Yeah.
Okie dokie. Learning all sorts of new things. Okay, what we got next here? So I was watching the Tristan Won't Shut Up Index Funds video, and I asked myself this question. If a people's index fund were set up to buy stocks from various industries, it would inevitably focus on the economy as a whole instead of an industry. However, how could one deal with microplanning within factories, industries, or manage non-commodified industries or freelancing industries and deal with deleterious but profitable industries? All right, so I'll just copy this one over.
Yeah, I I don't know the answer.
Yeah, Christos, we're idiots. I don't know how you. This is a ding dong podcast. We can't do simple things. You want us to do something hard? My wife and I quote that to each other all the time.
Same. It's fucking good.
Yeah.
That's like a good show. I'm gonna every time we do this stream, I always find something that I need to rewatch afterwards. And today it's gonna be the My Brother and Me TV show.
Yep. It's
alright. How would one deal with microplanning within factories and industries?
This is a Fritophobia podcast. Exactly. That's all we do. That's the only thing we're good at.
Why we do this? Let's see. Would another focus on thinking as a whole? Well, I think an index fund, like a people's index fund, wouldn't do microplanning within factories or industries, right?
Yeah.
Like,
So
that there would be another thing sort of set up to do that separately.
Yeah, the idea is that there would be a sort of like a people's index fund, which would be a index fund that's set up specifically for the purpose of raising money for leftist projects. So it wouldn't invest in any particular stocks, because like basically the thesis of this was that the weak spot of our current capitalist economy is not in industry anymore as much as it is in finance, and that the stock market is really where you can like actually fuck with them, and doing things like having a large amount of capital from a lot of people, using it to buy and invest in things and use the dividends to do stuff like build public housing and whatever dual power projects, right? So I guess that was the main idea of like the People's Index Fund. But also the video is about how index funds in general are a more successful strategy than actually like choosing winners and losers, which shows that just doing socialism is a smarter idea than being invested in every airline is more profitable than being invested in any one, which shows that socialism is the best stock market people also act like socialists. So how do you deal with microplanning within factories and industries? I don't know why you would need to deal with microplanning within factories and industries.
Yeah. That's what I'm thinking too.
Like, I feel like this is like assuming a different type of planned economy than the one that I'm talking about. This is talking about a way of building dual power, but I don't know what this has to deal with, like, I don't know.
I think this would be like a people's index fund in a sort of socialist economy, or like in a like much more planned economy than the one we have right now. Which we could talk about that, but that's like a different thing, I think.
Yeah, I mean, if you have a socialist economy, I wouldn't have stock markets. I feel like those are a thing. Those don't work well together. That's just my opinion.
Yeah. Manage non-commodified industries for freelance industries. I think the same answer there, right? And deal with socially deleterious but profitable industries.
Yeah, what that sounds like is market socialism, which famously was full of problems. Hence the unbridled success that was the country of Yugoslavia. Yeah, so that's... Joke's on you. We, Denmark, are friends with China. We got them pandas. Oh my. I don't want to start a Scandinavian war here.
I mean, if history is anything to judge by, it's going to happen eventually on its own.
Denmark and Sweden are the two countries that have been to war more often than any two countries in history, or something like that.
Yep. Number one!
Is that counting like Viking Days type stuff, or?
No.
Okay.
That's like, I think it only counts like post-independence in like the 1400s. anything before that is like Sweden and Denmark doesn't really exist as such, but definitely did do a lot of wars then too. But even counting after that, just constant warfare. I think if a thing like this had happened in any other place in the world, one would have absorbed the other. That's typically how those things work, right? Because like very similar cultural groups fighting against each other.
Yeah.
Typically, one comes out on top. But in Scandinavia, we just have three individual ones.
Wasn't this all specifically over like the southern coast of Sweden or something?
It's varied occasionally, but yeah, mostly for the southern coast of Sweden, which historically has mostly been Danish, and then we sort of nabbed it at the very end and kept it. And then it's been like about islands and like Napoleon and like various European shit. Denmark has attacked Sweden because Swedish armies was like over in Russia, so they were like, oh well, I guess we can nab something back, and then the Swedish armies like walked over the fucking winter ice because they did that one time, which you're not supposed to be able to do. You're not supposed to be able to walk over the ocean, but we did that and beat the Danes.
See how annoy both Swedes and Danes by suggesting they're all just Norwegian, really.
I think you're gonna annoy more Swedes than Danes with that. Danes and Norwegians are far better buddies than Swedes and Norwegians are.
Yeah.
If there's one universal rule about Scandinavia, it is that everyone hates each other, but everyone hates Sweden the most.
So I mean, like Norway is kind of like your shitty cousin that you haven't seen in a while, but you know is like obscenely rich.
Got all the oil money.
Yeah.
Got fucking wealth funds and shit.
It reminds me of one of the funniest aspects of my one of the funniest things about my grandma dying that ever happened. Which is just a weird way to say things. But
that was an interesting sentence, yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things that I inherited from my grandmother, which is like the weirdest thing I own, is I own mineral rights to a plot of land in Saskatchewan.
Uh-huh.
A region that might actually, like Saskatchewan has a fair amount of like oil production and potash mines and stuff. But it's just like I've never used it, and if I ever like, if anything ever came out of it, I would just be like, I would use my mineral rights to stop anybody from using it. But like, I just had this piece of paper that just like is like a deed to the mineral rights for some plot of land in Saskatchewan, which some like prospector probably like scammed an old lady out of or something.
Maybe, yeah.
I just found, yeah.
Is that an arc for future? Reclaiming this plot of land and creating the Tristan mines?
Oh boy. Because there's one thing I want to do is spend more time in Saskatchewan.
Clearly. Who does? I know absolutely nothing about Saskatchewan. But who doesn't want to spend more time in Saskatchewan?
Its entire industry is made up of wheat. The province is actually rectangular. And it is like actually famous for how flat and featureless it is. The entire province has about 1 million people living in it, and you could almost fit all of Europe in it, I think.
That does track.
And it does get to like negative 49 in the winter.
I just tried to spell Saskatchewan and basically key smashed my keyboard in order to do it right, and Google knew exactly what I meant.
Yep.
That tracks.
Can I donate the mineral rights to First Nations? Possibly. I don't even know if they would want it. I mean, I guess I could offer it, but I don't even know who the local like nations are where it is. I just have this like weird thing that came with. Yeah. All right, let's see if we got. Oh, I don't. Okay, it's not gays talk. We're not into gays talk. Do you think that a piece of media can be problematic objectively or subjectively? asking because a lot of movies, especially nowadays, seem to be problematic implicitly or in nuances that can be read in different ways. And I'm not sure if sometimes people read too much into things.
It's subjective, I think. Speaking as someone who doesn't do media criticism a lot, like, I don't think anything can be like objectively problematic. The term problematic is a term that implies subjectivity.
Yeah, a lot of times what happens and what people give things shit for is that somebody who wasn't paying attention or who was blinded by the fact that they've never had to deal with shit will try to add an element into a film that either shows like an example of something that I can think of as problematic is there was a case where for a brief moment Scarlett Johansson was going to play a trans man in a movie until the internet basically backed her out of it. And also the time where she was supposed to play a Japanese woman in another movie. And it's like, it's a thing that's like, if you're like a studio executive and these kinds of like, you know, the lives of trans men aren't a thing that are on your radar, then this is just like, okay, whatever, it's a problem. We'll just, what's it called? She'll just be Eddie Redmayne too. But it's
Eddie Redmayne 2, Cursed, the sequel.
Yeah. And then I was like, okay, there's a couple things to go on, which is like, you know, how many trans actors do you think there are in Hollywood who would love a job like that? But you got to get ScarJo on the movie, on the actual thing.
Gotta sell tickets.
Yeah. But, so the idea is that a lot of times these are tone deaf, I think is the term, where they don't realize what they're doing. But, people get mad for good reason. And it's like, hey, maybe you should listen to people once in a while, is basically the idea. Okay. I want to... Since we're not media critics, I can't really juice that too much.
I mean, neither. I think we get pretty good answers.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so people who are more oppressed. Okay. Should people who are more oppressed be expected to sympathize with people who are less oppressed than them? Interesting dichotomy you're setting up here.
Yeah.
I'm asking because of stuff like Bernie or Busters or left-wing Brexiteers claiming that the worst off won't see any difference under Biden or Trump, or if the UK stayed in the EU, even though Trump is a fascist and the EU opened borders between 27 countries, or third worlders just hating on America even though things will improve for some, e.g. lower middle class people are suffering and fascism has been stopped for the moment. Okay, Christos.
I think we need to be wary of having a sort of like oppression. I hate fucking using this term, like the oppression Olympics shit. It's such an awful term that has been ruined by like alt-right weirdos on the internet. But the meaning behind it, in the sense of like trying to rank various types of oppression, doesn't really work that well. It doesn't really work well in a position of
yeah.
Hang on, let me just
Yeah, because the idea is to have solidarity with oppression, and and a lot of times when these kind of things are brought up, even when they're like, if they're brought up, it's often used to. It's a liberal tactic to divide people based on different forms and flavors of oppression, to distract people from the fact that everybody's being oppressed by roughly the same force of people, the same class of people, if you will. And oftentimes it's, you know, it can be about, like, the most common time you'll see this is about like how in America, where there's a strong and deep racial caste system, and it's often been used to weaponize the class interests of poor white people to have them identify more with rich white people than the poor black people who, if they were just aware of each other's situations, would know that they have more in common with each other than they do with these people who are treating them like shit. And it has been a tactic used by liberals throughout history to try and divide us against our common goals. And someone just said like that it's kind of doing a class reductionism, and I would say no, because when you get into the details of the lives of different types of classes of people who have been oppressed through different types of historical, like when you're talking about how people are oppressed and what oppression looks like, it does look different for different types of people in different places, and intersectionality and different identities all have their own issues and nuances and historical circumstances that should be brought into consideration when talking about like struggles for liberty. But like broad picture, like it's fucking rich people, yo.
Yeah. I saw a tweet not too long ago that like very.
I know you were joking. I just wanted to address that. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. But also, I saw a tweet not too long ago about how like in order to sort of view, if we want to examine like a group in microcosm, then like talking about like intersectional like types of oppression, talking about like how that group in specifically is like stands in relation to other groups, that's one thing, right? But when we want to talk about like fixing many of those issues, many of those underlying issues, I think a good philosophy to have, like a rule of thumb, is to like avoid conflict with people who are not the enemy, right? Like, and like who are the enemy? And there's like it's like 15 white guys in New York and San Francisco basically. And like a few guys in like European cities, and that's it. That's the enemy basically, and we can and as long as we can focus like as much as we can on that, then we're good. And if we're talking about other like social movements, for example, like if we're talking about for example like street violence or like street harassment in terms of like the Proud Boys, for example, like. Who are the enemy in that scenario? It's a Proud Boys. It's like far-right fascist militias going around hurting people. It's not like people who protest the wrong way, according to you, or like who like come from a different background or like have other problems with them than you have, and which you might consider to be like the wrong reason. For example, like let's say for hypothetical sake that there's a group of people who hate the Proud Boys. Because they're super bad at tax declaration, like, and that's sort of like the main gripe with it. And if I can hate the Proud Boys for that, and I know sometimes in a lot of leftist spaces, especially, people would like get on their shit for like disliking the Proud Boys the wrong way, and I think that a more productive conversation would be like, whatever they're doing, that's fine. Let's just focus on the enemy, and that will solve the problem. And then. Like, if we're going to talk about, like, our group, like the left, for example, versus the tax avoidance people, the tax declaration people, the group, like, the relationship between those two, like, that's a whole different discussion. And I think that goes for basically all types of, like, various oppressed groups in relation to each other.
Yeah.
Like, you can't make a universal rule for everything, except for, like, focus on the enemy, or focus on two distinct groups, like in tandem. But you can't do everything at once. There's no universal theory of oppression.
Yeah.
Like you said, like that's your whole answer that you said.
The other thing to build on that is it also means that a lot of times, like, civil rights fights and like movements and victories that are not explicitly for like people who are like you are still victories for the overall cause of our, the working people's liberation. And a lot of times fights for civil rights for people in marginalized groups will be dismissed by certain aspects of leftists, some certainly some pretty shitty leftists as something like identity politics and just calling it that and using that to dismiss what they're talking about. When that's bad, don't do that. Now, yeah. I will say that while I also say that, I also acknowledge that weaponizing social justice language to use as a cudgel against left-wing activism has been part of the liberal playbook now, probably since the 2016-2015 primaries. So, and it has like spread everywhere now. And that is something that you need to be aware of. And you need to be paying attention to who's saying what language and how they're using it.
Yeah.
But yeah. But like when Black Lives Matter is protesting against police brutality, leftists shouldn't be like clicking their tongues about, oh, like, why are you fighting for like Black Lives Matter and not for like the revolution? That's when you need to be like quiet and rethink the things that you were saying.
Rethink this. These are bad optics. Should have stayed in the drafts.
Yeah.
There's a good real life example of this that happened during like the war against ISIS, where there was this weird like, because there were like international brigades with the Kurdish militia, right, fighting ISIS. Like people would travel from like Europe to fight ISIS, which is great. Fuck ISIS. But also, like there were a lot of gay Swedish people who would go there and like either fight or like do logistics or like admin or whatever, like just helping the cause. And there were a lot of like Kurdish militias who would do like big, like they would show support for pride parades and shit. And it was a really weird thing to see. Like you're at Stockholm Pride, a lot of party vibes, a lot of like hyper capitalism, right? And then also there's like the more political wing of the pride parade, and then there's also a sort of there's also like a small subsection of people who are like, these people are not gay, but they have come from Syria, where they have fought one of the worst organizations in the world to show support for pride. What? And it's just, and those things. I know this is such a weird example, but it's a weird. It's a good example of like two groups that you would think have like nothing to do with each other, like Stockholm gays and Kurdish militia fighters fighting ISIS. But if you can nurture these like connections between groups, and you can like mutually support each other, even though they're so very different from each other.
Yep.
I hope that was a good story and not complete rambling. I have an image in my mind. It's really hard to sort of explain the view, but I hope you get it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes sense. All right. Ooh, okay. Let's talk about superheroes now. Often I see critiques of superheroes in media going the way of, why don't they just solve structural problems of their society, especially for billionaire superheroes? However, that would mean that the comic would end, as well as a small group of people would become tyrants. Is it fair to criticize media on grounds that would literally end their medium's character arcs, and also in this sense implicitly advocating for ubermensch superheroes? Yeah, that's sort of like the fascism that's hidden behind all superhero stories. That like all the problems in the world need to be solved by just like one dude.
Mm-hmm.
And they did do something like this. There was one where Superman decided to deal with the systemic issues. It was called Injustice: Gods Among Us, where basically Superman became dictator of Earth.
What do you need?
Yeah, I think that you have hit on the head the problem with a lot of superhero stories, and that the idea of like one powerful person fixing the wrongs of the world is a little fashy.
A little fashy. Just a smidge fashy. No, but yeah, I definitely think that you can criticize stories like that, because I think it forces stories to become better, right? I definitely think you can make superhero stories that deal with those implications, right? I'm just thinking, like, I know people. I don't really know what the public perception is on Watchmen, but Watchmen sort of touches on this like a little bit, in the sense of like superheroes are good for like very specific purposes, but also, you know, they do stand above the law in a weird way, and no one holds them accountable, and they're all shitty. They can like ripe for abuse. It's not great, and when someone actually does do something about it, you can see what that sort of means in action in terms of like killing millions and millions of people.
Yeah, the thesis of Captain America: Civil War was that these people should not be regulated or held accountable in any way whatsoever.
That's why it's such a bad movie. Like, I hate Civil War so much because it's such an interesting premise. It's such an interesting premise. Like, what if we need to hold superheroes to account? And they come to the conclusion that no.
And even though in the movie there's a friggin' scene where Ruffalopagus destroys an entire African city.
Yeah, it starts out with, I think, Black Widow killing multiple civilians. Like, you could argue that wasn't great, obviously, but like, she kills multiple civilians. A year later, she's like having a fun romp in a fantasy village that she's creating on fucking WandaVision, but she has killed civilians. And but the story goes in the sense of like, if you're pro-regulation, you're anti-freedom.
Oh boy.
Which, yay!
Yeah. If I recall, it was that incident with the Hulk that actually like causes them to pass these laws, where they're like,
yeah,
maybe we should not. Maybe we should have some sort of regulation for these people who can destroy the world. Maybe. And also, wasn't this off the heels of the bad Avengers movie, where like the ending is literally them floating an entire city into the air and then like destroying it?
Yeah. Tony Stark accidentally builds a robot that like flies up a whole city, and then they drop a whole city on a country.
Yeah.
Killing many people. And basically destroying a whole country.
I can't possibly think why anyone would want to hold those types of people accountable.
But if you hold them, if you're held back by red tape, we can't be where we're needed.
Yeah, it's so a metaphor for why America needs to be like the global emperor. Like,
yeah, I'm really wondering like how much the culture of Hollywood writing at this point has gone into the sense of like, because there's so much military munding in Hollywood, right? And America is an extraordinarily militaristic culture already. And so I'm just wondering like how much of this is like winks and nudges by some like press director working at the Pentagon, like, you know, helping along in exchange for like being able to use helicopters and shit. And how much of this is just the end result of having Hollywood writers having been immersed in a very militaristic culture, surrounded by military money for the last like 50 years.
yeah.
Like, this might just come out naturally at this point. I don't even think the Pentagon has to pay for it. I think it's just like, I think writers just know that like this is just the kind of story that you're supposed to do.
Oh yeah, I don't think they're like mustache twirling villains. I think that in many ways, like, they're not like writing this with the idea of like, I'm going to say this is why America is great. It is like, they're steeped in these stories, and they keep repeating these stories, and like these are just recreations of superhero stories from comic books, which in turn are also them telling the story about like one super powerful person who has to stand up to the evils of the world and no accountability or restrictions on them. And like as those stories persuade, like pretty much like every action story in America is basically framed like this, that like it is built around the narrative that Americans tell themselves about their role in the world.
Yeah.
All right, the next question we got here is about your beauty video.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
That's the video I made.
So I was watching Mia's beauty video, which was really good, by the way. And I asked myself this question. Is there anything biological about beauty? While the historical examples of beauty Mia mentioned were different, they all focused on specific body parts. If so, are attractions to unconventional people, e.g. obese or anorexic, inherently fetishistic, or the only ones that actually disregard beauty standards?
That's an interesting point. Like, I don't think that. I think a big part of like beauty generally is that it is very subjective. Like on an individual point of view, like it is extraordinarily subjective. People like what they like. I don't think it's inherently like fetishistic. I think fetishistic like implies other things as well, not just like attraction to something, but also sort of like dehumanization as part of that as well. Like you can find a body type attractive, but if you find that body type attractive and like to the point where you sort of dismiss the person who has the body type, then I think I would rank that as fetishistic rather than just having a preference. But is there anything biological behind beauty standards? Not really. A lot of people have commented being like, well, what about like bone structure? Bone structure has always been attractive. It's like, no, it fucking hasn't. Like modern day bone structure is very different from how like attractive bone structure from just like 20 years ago. And I could have mentioned this in the video, but I guess I didn't really get to it. Well, like you can see even like, if you look at like models today and models 20 years ago and models 40 years ago, you can see that like in the 90s, having like a lot more angular faces was a lot more attractive. Not like in the 2000s, like 2010-ish.
That's how Tilda Swinton got famous.
Yeah, like then having like more narrow faces and having more like smaller faces become more attractive. In the 80s, having like well-defined shoulder bones, also, but like having the shoulders generally was very attractive. In like 2008, you were supposed to be as narrow as physically possible. Like it. So, bone, nah. The only thing, as far as the research that I could find comes into, is waist to hip ratio in women.
Well,
across all cultures, as far as people can tell, being somewhere within like a very wide range, by the way, of hip to waist ratios is like universally seen as being attractive. But if that means like being thin or being or like not being thin, like that doesn't really matter. Like that depends. Like that's where the subjectivity comes in, right? But the ratio can remain like somewhat similar. So it doesn't actually have to do anything with like thickness or like sort of like the width of your hips or anything like that specifically, or like the or like proportion in that sense. It's just this like one number that does this.
Huh.
And that's it. That's basically it. Everything else in terms of beauty standards seems subjective. And the reason why we don't actually know if this is actual beauty standards or not, because it's also the only thing that's like has a slight correlation, very, very slight, like almost statistically insignificant, and it may not be true at all, to fertility. That and that might be it.
Yeah.
And that's not even confirmed to be true. Like a lot of biologists don't think it is true. That's why I didn't mention the waist to hip ratio in my video, because it's been going back and forth, and it doesn't have anything to do with the bones, by the way, in your hips. That is not related to fertility for some reason. It's just like the distribution of like it's just the ratio between waist and hip.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with bones, nothing to do with fat distribution, nothing to do with muscle, nothing to do with like with weight. None of that shit. It's just a weird ratio.
Okay. Yeah, the kind of way to build on that is like I have Mark's brain, so I can think of like that a lot of times that the beauty standard seems to be tied to class indicators, like you were talking about in the video, how in the past, like people who were voluptuous and round were considered the beauty standard at a time when like half of people were malnourished and starving to death. And then in modern day, where access to nutritional and balanced food is now a marker of class privilege, now the desire is to be rail thin and everything like that. And it's like,
Yeah.
and there's sort of like a balancing between like essentially whatever is like the hardest type of body to achieve under the current material conditions, that's the one you need to be, because that you have the money to get your body to that point. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Sorry, I was just reading a question, but that makes perfect sense. And you can also see it happen, not just in terms of like, in terms of like fat redistribution out there, because like in the 90s, like athleticism was seen as like a very like high epitome of beauty. So that's where you start seeing very well defined muscle tone in a lot of like women in a lot of women and models, because that was the sort of obsession of that time. So not just like being thin, which had been the standard a bit before and also after, but also being just like muscular and strong, which came and went. Now now it depends, obviously, because it's harder to make a sort of like universal acknowledgement of beauty standards in the present.
Yeah, I also could play what could play into that too, and this is a weird thing that this is a thing that I always find weird historical a little bit, is that it was sort of not until like the 1980s that like by and large we discovered that exercise is good. like that's the thing, is like the thing like everyone talks about like the dorky like 80s aerobic videos, and it's like it's because aerobics was kind of new then. Like people like literally it was like the 1980s before people were like, we should exercise. And like back then they were like, people who run are weird, aren't they? Like, why would you run? Why don't you take it?
Why are you running?
Yeah. And so like the idea that like, you know, exercise is healthy for you was kind of a hot take. Cause and like, I know that sounds like absolutely fucking wild, but like people didn't worry about exercise until weirdly recent. And then they became obsessed with it. And maybe that could explain the 90s like trend, because then the sign of wealth was being able to afford a personal trainer and go to the gym 5 times a day and like
being able to like eat the very like narrow diet that you require to like get muscle definition. Also fucking muscle definition is such a fucking myth. You're just dehydrated. Gym nuts. You're just fucking dehydrated. Drink some water.
And all of the that's the bigorexia issue that doesn't get talked about a whole lot, about like what's it called, like the body dysmorphia that people are getting over muscles, especially like because all of the male actors in action movies and stuff like that are like paid to work out, like between movies they're paid a like very handsome salary to just work out all day every day.
And like as I mentioned in my video as well, like every single fucking actor that you see on TV has had plastic surgery done, like almost 100%. Like and
then when they do show their muscles, they are filling themselves with creatine, which is a chemical that is used to make your muscles absorb more water so that they're more bulbous, and also they dehydrate themselves so that their like regular body fat sort of shrinks down a little bit. It's actually like all right,
let's do a last question. Let's get to one by 255 AD.
Yeah, that was actually going to come up next anyway.
Nice. Perfect.
Okay, this is a bit of a mouthful, but I guess we can do it. You know how TNG, DS9, Voyager, and Enterprise have very little to do with each other aside from being set in the same universe. Today, do you think CBS would be willing to commission a not self-parody animated Star Trek show with a totally new cast of characters that have no connection to past shows. A while back, I listened to a movie podcast that pointed out that we have a lot of these supposedly vast fictional universes, but the studios will only let the stories that can be told in them be about a small cast of characters related to the most famous players in the universe, i.e., every Star Wars movie has to relate back to the Skywalker dynasty in some way. Has Star Trek been falling into that lately? It seems like all the new shows relate to TOS or TNG in some way.
I guess that's a little bit what Discovery is wanting to do, right?
I mean, Discovery
started out being connected, and then...
Yeah, they're doing their own thing. I think that they're doing it more now. They still are like the flagship of the 31st Century Federation is the Voyager J or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, they are falling for a bit. Like, a lot of culture is doing this. But I do agree that, like, in the 90s, they tried very hard to make sure that nobody was stepping on each other's toes, and they gave themselves their own... Like, they literally gave the two concurring running Star Trek shows their own quadrants so that they wouldn't run into each other, and created one of the biggest plot holes in Voyager specifically in order to give each of them their own quadrant. And even after Voyager got going, they changed the uniforms so that you would know which show you were watching by which uniform they had. Yeah, so they went all out. They were definitely more on top of, like, giving every other show its own space. While now they don't do that. Yeah, like every Lower Decks episode is a reference to an older Star Trek thing, and like Picard is literally just a TNG nostalgia show. And well, it's actually an all things nostalgia show. I forgot that it had like Icheb and 7 and 9 and stuff. Which plot hole? The fact that Voyager would have had a much shorter trip if they decided to go to the wormhole in the Gamma Quadrant rather than going the long way around.
Oh shit, you're right.
That's what everybody points out. It's like they could have just gone to the...
Yeah, and they know about the wormhole too.
Yeah.
Fuck. I never thought about that.
And then instead of having, like, 5 seasons of Voyager against the Dominion, they decided to go the long way around.
Damn.
But it is true. Like, there's a lot of people who think that people won't watch a show unless there's something that they recognize already in it. And yeah, Discovery relies a lot on TOS nostalgia, which is even weird in the 31st century because they're still, like, relying on, like, Orions and Andorians and stuff like that. And it's like, okay, these old TOS aliens, I guess they're trying to show that they're kind of, like, closer to home, that the universe has become a bit smaller. I guess that makes sense. Weren't they in the same distance, and the Dominion would have been a huge threat. The thing is, they didn't know the Dominion were a threat yet at that point. That's the...
Yeah, because they start out at Deep Space Nine, right? Voyager starts at Deep Space Nine.
Yeah, and it
with
also...
with the wormhole discovered, they know where it goes to, but they haven't really talked to the Dominion that much yet.
Yeah, because I think when the show starts, it's around season... I want to say season 3 of DS9, which is before they really get into... Like, the Dominion stuff doesn't really start until season 4.
Yeah.
Season 3, like, the big plot line of season 3 was, if I remember correctly, that was when the Federation and the Klingons were kind of raising their stakes against each other. And it ended with them finding out the Dominion was behind it all, but they don't find that out until after Voyager would have gotten lost. So,
yeah.
Is DS9 good? It is the best. It is the best Star Trek.
The best one. It had an episode where the Ferengi organized themselves around Marxism.
Yep.
That's not a joke. It's literally an episode about Marxism. Star Trek Marx. It happens.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck, that's good.
Yeah. Although I will say, yeah, Voyager got very fun when they started entering a subplot with Reginald Barclay as a major character on the show. And then they just kept digging up Marina Sirtis every few weeks so that she could show up for some stuff. She's like, I'll take a paycheck, sure.
Fuck it.
All right. We ran a little bit over time, but that's okay. So let's end here. Who are we going to raid today? Who's our raid victim today? It's going to be MX Emily.
Yeah.
But yes, we'll be back on Monday, hopefully. So take care of yourselves. Take care of each other, and I will. We'll see you then. Usually don't go from our stream to another one of our streams. So keep watching the skies.